Welcome back to the Foundation in C# course. We are currently in Module 9. In this lesson, we're going to be building out that bookings table. All right, so your homework for this lesson is to create the table that holds the room reservations or bookings. Okay, and you have that in your data design. Go ahead and build that. Now pause the video and come on back when you're done. All right, I assume that you are back from pausing the video and doing the work. Let's go ahead and build out that table. So new table, bookings, make it identity. Now you see, we've already only done 4 tables, but we already have some repetition going on. And that's a good thing. You want to practice and have this repetition because that gets your brain to be able to kind of not think about it as much and not have to miss it as easily. Because you're used to the idea of, okay, let's put identity first before we do anything else. And when you're used to that pattern, then it's easier to make sure you're doing the right things because you're not as concentrating on the specifics of the details, specifically the syntax, okay? So definitely this practice is really important to do. All right, so ID, an int, and now we have our room, which we called room. We're going to say room ID because it's an int, and it's going to link to our foreign key. So let's add a new foreign key, and the table is going to be to the rooms table. And so we'll say the room ID is going to link to the table is going to be rooms, and the column is going to be ID. All right, so there's our foreign key already. And now we'll go to the next property, which is guest, but guest ID, because again, we're going to link to the guests table. So new foreign key, and this is going to be to the guests table. And this is going to be guest ID. And we're going to link to the guests table. And the column is going to be ID. All right, so now you've added a second constraint. Now we can have our start date, which is going to be a date time 2. It's 2, not date time. There's both. So there's date time and date time 2. The reason there's both is because they changed how date time was stored. This is more efficient, date time 2, but they couldn't change the original date time because it was a breaking change. And Microsoft didn't want to break everybody's database, and so they created a second date time option. So going forward, when you're creating a database, you should only ever use date time 2, not date time. All right, we're not going to allow nulls. We want a start date. We also want an end date. So date time 2 and not null. We have checked in. And this is a Boolean, but SQL doesn't have the concept of a Boolean as in true or false. It has instead bit. And a bit is 0 or 1. 0 being false, 1 being true. All right. And we're not going to allow nulls. We are going to set a default value of 0. That should be the default anyway, but we're going to set it to be 0. That way we're sure that when they create a record, they don't have to specify that the person's not checked in because by default, they're not checked in. Okay, and then we have total cost. And that is of type money. And we don't want that to be null either. All right, so there's our table with 2 foreign keys and all the data, including a default value. And that's it for the bookings table. Creating these tables gets a lot easier when you have that data design. Because you look at that data design and go, okay, those are the fields I need. And then you just worry about, is there anything SQL specific I need to add as well? Or the types that I need to use? Those are the big question marks, all right? So with that being done, Let's close this out, and now you can move on to the next lesson where we're going to cover sample data and how to create it.